Oh, you're late, Emily. I'm starving. Get dinner ready, will ya? The living room looked like it had been ransacked. Lying on the couch like she owned the place, my mother-in-law pushed me to my limit. That's it, I'm done taking this from her. My name is Emily. I met my husband Samuel through work and we got married. We're both career-driven. We love our jobs so much that we discussed how to balance work and family life before getting married. Once kids are in the picture, priorities shift, and you have to make sacrifices. We chose not to have children so we could focus on our careers and eventually go independent. We share the housework and vow to support each other. Our jobs keep us busy, but we get along well. We spend our weekends chatting about work or enjoying some leisure time. But there's one yearly event that's pure torture for me: going on vacation with my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Samuel and I agree that family is important. Since he respects my family, I want to do the same for his. I don't mind going on these trips. It's just my mother-in-law who irks me. She just can't stand me. During a family meeting, Samuel explained that we wouldn't be having kids and would continue working. While my father-in-law was understanding, my mother-in-law flew off the handle. How can you marry a woman who doesn't want kids? I've been looking forward to grandchildren. Women should quit their jobs when they get married. Women can't accomplish anything meaningful in the workplace. My father-in-law snapped back. Well, maybe you never accomplished much, but Emily has a promising career. This led to a heated argument between them. Samuel had to step in to break it up, exasperated. Ever since that terrible family meeting, my mother-in-law and I had been on bad terms. The day of the trip had arrived. Feeling downcast, I headed to the meeting spot where I'd see my father-in-law and mother-in-law. Samuel turned to me. Hey, it's alright if you don't want to do this, you know? I replied, no worries, let's go. Our trip with father-in-law and mother-in-law was an overnight stay. We had separate rooms for my in-laws, so we didn't spend the night together. A day or two of discomfort wasn't a big deal. When we arrived at the meeting place, father-in-law greeted us warmly, but mother-in-law seemed constantly upset. It was hard to enjoy the trip while not trying to annoy my visibly irritable mother-in-law. Father-in-law had recently retired from the company where he'd worked for years, although he was rehired for some time. While we caught up about his life post-retirement, mother-in-law only had sarcastic remarks. Any woman who doesn't want kids is worthless. Poor Samuel married to someone like you. You should quit your job and focus on housework, she muttered. Eventually, father-in-law had enough. What are you grumbling about? We're here to enjoy this trip together. What's there to complain about? You're the one who doesn't understand. She's always working and probably neglecting housework. How can you not feel sorry for Samuel? Exhausted by the sudden argument between father-in-law and mother-in-law, we decided to head to the hotel early. But when we got there and checked our reservation at the front desk, something was wrong. For some reason, only my name was missing, and the room intended for both of us was now a single room for Samuel. Upon inquiring at the front desk, we were told my reservation was canceled a few days earlier. Puzzled, we told father-in-law and mother-in-law what happened. While father-in-law looked confused, mother-in-law flashed a triumphant smile. It's only natural that you don't have a room, Emily. This is a family trip and you're not family. You should just go home, mother-in-law said. Wait, did you cancel my reservation? Of course, it was me. Father-in-law, Samuel, and I were all speechless. It was like she didn't even realize the outrageousness of her own words. Sighing, I said, "All right, then I'll leave since I'm not family." "Good, go now." "I'm going too." As Samuel stood up to leave with me, mother-in-law raised her voice. "What?" Even father-in-law stood up and said, "I'm leaving too," leaving mother-in-law to distort her face in confusion. Father-in-law apologized to me and gave mother-in-law a few $100s in cash before packing his bags. "Look, you can stay if you want, but I can't enjoy this trip feeling like this. From now on, no more family vacations for me." "What are you talking about? If you're leaving, at least let Samuel stay." "No way. The way Mom treats Emily is just too much. Plus, I'm tired of all the arguing." So, leaving a deflated mother-in-law behind, the three of us decided to head home. The flight back was the best part of the trip. We all sat together and had a great time. Mother-in-law, stubborn as ever, stayed at the hotel for one more night and spent every last cent father-in-law had given her. Sure enough, when mother-in-law got back, she and father-in-law had a huge fight. According to Samuel, their relationship had been rocky for a while now. Samuel was worried their relationship might get even worse now that father-in-law had more time at home. That worry turned out to be well-founded a few days later. Samuel went to work and I was enjoying my day off when the doorbell rang. There stood mother-in-law with a load of bags. "What? Mother-in-law?" "I'm done living with my husband. I'm staying here for a while." Ignoring my shock, mother-in-law waltzed in and took over the living room. Feeling stuck, I called Samuel at work. "Sorry to bother you at work, but mother-in-law just showed up here." "What?" Upon hearing my report, Samuel was shocked and tried to call his father, but it seemed like his dad didn't answer the phone. I tried to ask mother-in-law what happened between her and father-in-law and suggested they should talk, but she just ignored me. Meanwhile, mother-in-law lounged on our sofa as if she owned the place. "Ugh, what a filthy house. It's all because you work, Emily. Being under the same roof with you is unbearable. Samuel really needs to divorce you soon," she muttered incessantly. I was resigned to her comments, going about my life as usual. She, however, never stopped badgering me. Samuel came home early that day to persuade his mother to leave, but she wouldn't budge. In the end, we couldn't reach father-in-law and were forced to live with mother-in-law until we could. The next day, Samuel and I had to work, leaving mother-in-law behind. "Just quit your job already," she said, but I ignored her. When I got home that evening, it looked like a burglar had been through the place. "Wow, you're late. Emily, I'm hungry, so get dinner started," mother-in-law said, lying on the sofa like a couch potato. What happened here? "Oh, this mess? Must be because you don't clean." "No, that's not the point. Why is everything dumped out of the drawers?" "You didn't prepare lunch, did you? I was looking for something to eat." I didn't understand how looking for food led her to rummaging through my drawers. I voiced my confusion, but mother-in-law just ignored me. Realizing that my credit card was missing, my heart sank. Just as I suspected, my mother-in-law had probably stolen it. As I was contemplating how to bring up the issue, Samuel walked through the door. Seeing the state of the house, he immediately started arguing with his mother. I pulled Samuel aside and whispered that my credit card was missing. Rubbing his temples, he sighed, "Give me a break. Look, we can't let her get away with this. She needs to face the consequences." "If you say so, leave it to me," Samuel agreed. And so we resolved to make mother-in-law pay for her actions. A few days later, Samuel finally got through to his father, who had been unresponsive because he was traveling with a friend and didn't have his phone. When he returned home, he found a note from my mother-in-law on the table. It read, "I'm still mad about being left behind during the trip. I'm leaving this house." Knowing his father would be coming over, Samuel and I adjusted our work schedules to be home. When we got back, my mother-in-law casually said, "Oh, you're home early." But her expression changed when she saw her husband arrive. "What? Why are you here? Did you come to get me?"
"No, I came to give you this."
He handed her filled out divorce papers. "What?" she exclaimed, visibly shocked.
"Your selfish behavior has only escalated over the years, especially your treatment towards Emily. Why can't you accept the woman your son chose? I've reached my limit. I want a divorce,"
he calmly stated. "Fine, let's get a divorce. I have Samuel, so I don't need you. Emily, bring me a pen. You're so useless." Although annoyed, I handed her a pen as quickly as I could to get her to sign. Once I confirmed that there were no errors in the signed divorce papers, I addressed my irritated mother-in-law. "I have something I want to show you." "What could be so important right now?" she snapped. I opened my laptop in front of her. On the screen was a video of her shopping. "I'm going to zoom in," I told her as I enlarged the image. In her hand was an illustrated credit card. "That credit card isn't yours, is it?" "Well, it's mine."
"You don't have a credit card."
I had already checked with father-in-law, who spoke in a tone of disbelief. You see, mother-in-law had once maxed out a credit card without father-in-law's knowledge, so ever since, father-in-law hadn't let her have a credit card. Mother-in-law loudly snapped at father-in-law. "I'm the one who made it." Samuel coolly retorted,
"Like you could make it. This card is a limited edition, you know. See the artwork? It was only available during a special collaboration."
As Samuel pointed out, this credit card was indeed a limited edition. I loved the artwork on it and had gotten the card when it was in a collaboration. I usually kept it tucked away in a drawer as a kind of collection. So the thing is, mother-in-law had stolen it. We could have suspended the card immediately, but Samuel and I let mother-in-law dig her own grave so we could gather irrefutable evidence. I have time-stamped photos, and when we checked the card's transaction history, it matched the time mother-in-law was out shopping. Seems like you've bought other luxury items too. It's not true. I didn't steal any credit card. Really? Then let's submit these photos and the transaction history to the police. We need to find out who misused the card if it wasn't you. The police? Mother-in-law's voice cracked in surprise. Of course, someone stole from us, I said, and mother-in-law started making outrageous claims. The photo is fake. Who would even take such a picture? Someone just fabricated this. I'm innocent. I took that photo. What? As I've told you before, I'm a journalist. I work as a journalist, capable of tailing people and collecting photographic evidence if needed. Mother-in-law had no chance of escaping with a pro like me on her tail. I operated my laptop and displayed photo after photo of mother-in-law buying various luxury goods. If it wasn't you, the police will figure it out when we present all this evidence. Don't worry, and if police involvement seems unlikely, we'll get a lawyer. I knew that police often don't intervene in civil matters. Them taking action over mother-in-law misusing the credit card without permission was unlikely, but I had used the threat of calling them. However, the idea of consulting a lawyer was real. I was collecting evidence photos to claim damages. Even if you're my daughter-in-law, I'm still your mother. What kind of horrible person takes such pictures of family? Odd, I recall you saying I wasn't family when we went on a trip. Upon hearing my confrontational words, mother-in-law's face turned beet red. In a flustered state, she shoved father-in-law aside and ran out of the house. While I was asking father-in-law, who had fallen, "Are you okay?" Samuel sprinted out of the house. Given that Samuel enjoys running, he's pretty quick on his feet. Mother-in-law had no chance to escape and was caught almost immediately. I informed her that I would report to the lawyer that she had injured father-in-law in addition to running away. Although father-in-law wasn't seriously hurt, he did injure his back and had to go to the hospital. I told mother-in-law we would also be billing her for the medical expenses, to which she tearfully responded, "I don't have that kind of money." I didn't care. Samuel said,
"I can't deal with parents like this,"
and handed mother-in-law a letter of disownment, thus completing her eviction. As promised, we contacted a lawyer we know and initiated the process to cut ties with mother-in-law, including claims for damages and medical expenses. Later, we heard that mother-in-law had moved in with her estranged sister and brother-in-law to borrow money. Although her sister's family runs a business and lent her the money, mother-in-law now works like a horse to pay it back. We ended up living with father-in-law. It wasn't a big deal, but we were concerned about leaving father-in-law alone with his sore back. Father-in-law has been proactive in helping around the house, which has been a great relief to both Samuel and me. Father-in-law's years of work experience also bring valuable advice to our careers. Of course, if father-in-law's health deteriorates, we're prepared to support him fully. Now that mother-in-law is out of the picture, the three of us are living harmoniously, enjoying the return of peaceful days.